Only God's plan for salvation will work. What's good, fam? We made it to lesson 71 of A Course in Miracles. And today we're building off of yesterday's idea, which we discussed about how we think we're going to find salvation out there while identified with the ego. But that's actually the ego's plan for salvation. The ego's plan for salvation is diametrically opposed to God's plan. God knows that none of that stuff means anything. God knows that He has given me and you the means necessary for releasing ourselves from the illusions that we made, which is the only thing we need to be saved from. God gave us the means for undoing that. And that builds off of yesterday's idea again, for which was my salvation comes from me. Now, before we dive in here, we're just going to discuss how the ego, that sense of separation that we have made for ourselves, that little tiny mad idea that we think that we are, that little self-image that we believe is this body, that we believe is separate from the world, boxed off in its own little corner, away from everyone and everything. That ego tells us that our salvation and our happiness and joy and our love is going to be found out there. But that is just not so. And the ego's basic doctrine is seek but do not find. That's exactly what the ego wants you to do. That's what we're doing whenever we fall asleep to who we really are, and whenever we're being ruled by this false sense of self, this self that we have made apart from God. We're going to call that the ego. The ego wants us to seek but never find, meaning we're going to look out there, we're going to look over there, we're going to buy this thing, we're going to get in this relationship, we're going to do all these things out there, because surely out there is where the saving is going to come from, right? And that is just not so. So let's go ahead and dive straight in, and we're going to understand how we've been looking for what we really want in the wrong places. And we're going to remember that it is within, and when we know that, we take back our power as the Son of God, as love and light, as creators. We will undo all of our miscreations, so that way we can finally be saved from our own illusions and live freely like we intended. So if you got the book, you already know what to do. If you don't got the book yet, the PDF is in the description. Let's go ahead and dive straight in. Lesson 71. Only God's plan for salvation will work. You may not realize that the ego has set up a plan for salvation in opposition to God's. It is this plan in which you believe. Since it is the opposite of God's, you also believe that to accept God's plan in place of the ego's is to be damned. This sounds preposterous, of course. Yet, after we have considered just what the ego's plan is, perhaps you will finally realize that, however preposterous it may be, you do believe in it. The ego's plan for salvation, before we continue, we do believe in this when we're asleep, and most of the world believe in this, and we don't say it with words. We're not even aware that this is going on. And I've been repeating that for the last few days, because this course is bringing it to our awareness. This beautifully written book right here, Jesus, is bringing it to our awareness that this is all going on behind the scenes. So we think that we're going to find salvation out there, and we think all of these insane thoughts, and we're not even aware that we're doing so. So power of awareness, again, whenever you are made aware of your decision-making process, then we can decide to change that process if we so choose. And nobody chooses what they don't believe would serve them. So the fact that me and you are choosing to go a different route is showing that me and you know that this is going to serve us. Now, there are people out there, our reflections, our brothers, who are also love and light, who are asleep, and they're looking for salvation outside of themselves, but because they are too indulged in the world of the ego, and they have separated themselves to such a large extent, they are going to continue choosing that path unknowingly because they don't believe that the way that really is will work, because they're unaware that they're unaware that there is another way. And today me and you are here discussing that other way. The ego's plan for salvation centers around holding grievances. It maintains that if someone else spoke or acted differently, if some external circumstance or event were changed, you would be saved. Thus, the source of salvation is constantly perceived as outside of yourself. Each grievance you hold is a declaration and an assertion in which you believe that says, if this were different, I would be saved. The change of mind necessary for salvation is thus demanded of everyone and everything except yourself. Can you believe that? Can you believe how insane that is, that we have really thought like this for the majority of our lives? We have told ourselves, if that person were different, then I would feel better. If this situation happened differently, then I would have been saved. I would have been happy. Everything would have worked out in my favor. That's a sure sign that we are identified with the ego, because again, the ego's doctrine is seek but do not find. So we're constantly on the search for that peace, that love, that joy, that happiness, that enoughness. We're on the search for that where it is not. We are on the search for that out there. And if only this person were different, we could have got it. If only the situation changed, then and only then would I have been enough. And that is just not so. But that is the way we've been thinking. Pretty insane, right? And looking directly at this insane thought system should be enough to make us want to change our mind about our decision-making process. We, seeing how insane this is, are now inclined to go the right way, because our whole life we have been going the wrong way. We have been going the way that is not going to lead us to where we want to be. The role assigned to your own mind in this plan, then, is simply to determine what, other than itself, must change if you are to be saved. According to this insane plan, any perceived source of salvation is acceptable, provided that it will not work. Can you believe that? I'm going to read that one more time. Let's really pay close attention to these words. The role assigned to your own mind in this plan, then, is simply to determine what, other than itself, must change if you are to be saved. According to this insane plan, any perceived source of salvation is acceptable, provided that it will not work. So any route that works, we turn away. We don't want that route. Any route that doesn't work, though, that's where we go. We go to the places that don't work. We go everywhere other than within. That's wild. I can't believe we've been thinking like this our whole life, or at least I have. And it feels great to be made aware, because now I can change that, because I am in control here. I have complete dominion over my life and my situations, my circumstances, my events, my state of mind. I am in control of that, and I'm taking that back. This endures that the fruitless search will continue, for the illusion persists that, although this hope has always failed, there is still grounds for hope in other places and in other things. Another person will yet serve better. Another situation will yet offer success. Another this, another that. There's so many places we could travel to in this world. There's so many people we could meet in this world. There's so many pieces of clothing we could buy. There's so many pieces of jewelry we could buy. There's so many cars, houses, this, that, left, right, up, down. There's so many things that we can search for our salvation. There's actually an endless amount of things that we could search, where we could search for salvation. So We look for it in people, in relationships, in places. We think that we're not good enough where we're at right now, so we're searching for it out there, when really, if we were to see that it was right here all along, then we would enjoy more fulfillingly those experiences. Can you believe that me and you have had great experiences in our life, and we didn't allow ourselves to fully experience those experiences until after they were gone? Have you ever been through that, where you are having a great conversation with somebody, but you're in your head thinking about what you're going to say next, or thinking about whatever that is not in front of you right now in this present moment? You are thinking and preoccupied with past thoughts. But then whenever the time passes and that person is no longer in your immediate vicinity, now you're thinking of the past again, preoccupied with past thoughts about that present moment that you missed out on. And you're like, dang, that was a good moment, but I didn't allow myself to be present. If only I could have said this. And you would have said that thing if you were present in that moment. Well, me and you have not allowed ourselves to fully experience the fullness of every moment. And that is exactly why we are here, to take back control and understand that me and you have complete dominion and authority over our life. And now we can enjoy every moment fully. And that's so fulfilling. It's so happy. It's so joyful. It's so exhilarating. It's so love. It's so perfect. It's so pure. We are here together now in the present moment. We are no longer going to be preoccupied with past thoughts, because the past is not here no more. The past is no longer here. Right now in this moment is a pure and fresh, brand new moment for me and you to experience who we really are and who anything and anyone really is. We are all a reflection of one another, and it's only whenever our mind is back there in the past or over there in the future that we can't experience that fully. So let's go ahead and put an end to that right now, because there is no need for that. Surely you cannot name one. There is no need. Another person will yet serve better. Another situation will yet offer success, is what we think while identifying with the ego, but that is not the case. Such is the ego's plan for your salvation. Surely you can see how it is in strict accord with the ego's basic doctrine: seek, but do not find. For what could more surely guarantee that you will not find salvation than to channelize all your efforts in searching for it where it is not? God's plan for salvation works simply because, by following His direction, you seek for salvation where it is. But if you are to succeed, as God promises you will, you must be willing to seek there only. Otherwise, your purpose is divided, and you will attempt to follow two plans for salvation that are diametrically opposed in all ways. Basically, we can't do both at the same time. We are either going to look for it out there, therefore not within, or within, therefore not out there. We can't choose both. We are either choosing God's way or the highway. It is God's way or the highway. We are choosing God's way or nowhere at all. Which one do you choose? I really wanted to know. Let me know. Otherwise, your purpose is divided, and you will attempt to follow two plans for salvation that are diametrically opposed in all ways. The result can only bring confusion, misery, and a deep sense of failure and despair. How can you escape all this? Very simply. The idea for today is the answer. Only God's plan for salvation will work. There can be no real conflict about this, because there is no possible alternative to God's plan that will save you. His is the only plan that is certain in its outcome. His is the only plan that must succeed. Let us practice recognizing this certainty today, and let us rejoice that there is an answer to what seems to be a conflict with no resolution possible. All things are possible to God. Salvation must be yours because of His plan, which cannot fail. Begin the 2 longer practice periods for today by thinking about today's idea and realizing that it contains 2 parts, each making equal contribution to the whole. God's plan for your salvation will work, and other plans will not. Do not allow yourself to become depressed or angry at the second part. It is inherent in the first, and in the first is your full release from all your own insane attempts and mad proposals to free yourself. They have led to a depression and anger, but God's plan will succeed. It will lead to release and joy. Remembering this, let us devote the remainder of the extended practice periods to asking God to reveal His plan to us. Ask Him very specifically, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? That's worth highlighting. Let's read that one more time. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? Give Him full charge of the rest of the practice period, and let Him tell you what needs to be done by you in His plan for your salvation. He will answer in proportion to your willingness to hear His voice. One more time. Ask God these questions in your practice period, and He will answer in proportion to your willingness to hear His voice. Refuse not to hear. The very fact that you are doing these exercises proves that you have some willingness to listen. This is enough to establish your claim to God's answer. In the shorter practice periods, tell yourself often that God's plan for salvation, and only His, will work. Be alert to all temptation to hold grievances today and respond to them with this form of today's idea. Holding grievances is the opposite of God's plan for salvation, and only His plan will work. Try to remember today's idea some 6 or 7 times every hour. Try to remember today's idea some 6 or 7 times an hour. There could be no better way to spend half a minute or less than to remember the source of your salvation and to see it where it is. That's a fact. There is no better way to spend half a minute or less than to remember the source of your salvation and to see it where it is. What would we be doing with our thoughts for that half a minute if it were not for repeating this idea for ourselves? We'd probably be thinking the most mindless thoughts ever. Those lazy thoughts that we talked about that are so easy to think because we've been thinking them our whole life, which is why we are here right now in this place that we're at, needing salvation. Those mindless thoughts are what's keeping us here. But whenever we decide to spend half a minute to replace those meaningless thoughts with thoughts of God's plan, we surely will be saved. And that is the end of Lesson 71 of A Course in Miracles. We are going to conclude today's lesson right here. And let's keep everything that we talked about today on the forefront of our mind all day. Let's make sure that we understand that only God's plan for salvation will work, and me and you can experience more fulfilling relationships in life. We can experience more fulfilling financial situations. We could experience more fulfilling careers. We can experience more fulfilling friendships, more fulfilling everything in life, more fulfilling health, more vitality, more clarity. We can experience that, and it's only whenever we are in this present moment that can we experience that to the fullest, because all of that is here right now, and it's right beneath our eyes. And right now, me and you are in the real world, so we can see that. But we have to remember, whenever we are asleep, everything we talked about today, or else we are just going to remain asleep, and we really don't want that. And by now, I'm pretty sure that we understand that our will is one with God's will, and our will and God's will is for His Son to be awake and in love and in peace and enlightened and receiving all the good that is surrounding Him all the time. So we will meet here again tomorrow for Lesson 72, and I will see you then.